As a new or inspiring author, it can be extremely overwhelming to determine what is the best publishing option for you. There's hybrid publishing, which is a blend between traditional and indie or self-publishing. There's indie or self-publishing, which means you're doing it independently or on your own. And then there's the traditional publishing route that we all know of or are familiar with. And the reality is it can become overwhelming determining which route to take and what's going to be most in alignment with your overall goals. But look no further. You don't have to be overwhelmed or frustrated. In today's video, I'll talk about the pros and cons of each option so that you can make a well-informed decision moving forward. A common misconception about the writing and author journey is that if you write a book, it'll be great, you throw it out there, and then before you know it, people will actually buy it. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Research says that over 5,000 books are being published every day. And in fact, some books aren't even ever being discovered. But obviously, you don't want that for your book. So you want to be intentional about creating a marketing and launch plan that's going to set you up for success. As a publishing coach and a 10-time best-selling author, I have experienced all of these routes. So please understand that I am not at all advocating for one or another. What I do know is what works for one person could work great for them and work totally different for another person. And so my job is to inform you with information so that you know what decision feels in alignment with your overall goals. So let's first dive in and talk about traditional publishing. Traditional publishing is where an author is offered a contract, the publisher kind of like takes over and in turn does the editing, the graphic design, the formatting, prints it, publishes it, and markets your book through different retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, any other retailers that you can think of. Now, with every option that there is for choosing which marketing path to go down, which publishing path to go down, there are pros and cons. So some of the pros of traditional publishing is you have a supportive team and a knowledgeable team behind you. Typically with traditional publishing, they have had past experiences of helping other people publish, so they know what works and what doesn't work. Therefore, they're weaving the things that have been proven to be successful into your marketing and launching plan. A second pro of the traditional publishing route is there's no upfront costs. In fact, if they really like your manuscript and they see a lot of value in your manuscript, you might even get an upfront check to pay you for using their publishing house, which is absolutely amazing. The third pro is that you can get increased visibility. Typically, publishing houses that are traditional publishing houses are well known. And so they're already out there. They already have a large following or an audience, and they're already engaging with their audience. So it's just your way of streamlining to get in front of a new and expansive audience. So it's a great way to expand your reach, expand your visibility. And then finally, the fourth pro is that traditional publishing is one of the oldest forms of publishing. So there's no stigma around it. It's kind of well respected when you go the traditional publishing route. Now, while I identified a ton of pros, let's be honest, there's also going to be a couple of cons. The first con is that you often have to share royalties, which means that you did a lot of the work, but because they're doing part of it, they get a percentage, and that's kind of part of the contract that they build in. The second piece is a lot of authors feel like they lose creative control. So they have an idea or a vision for their book, but a lot of times they have to settle on that or make shifts or adjustments to really bend into what the traditional publishing house finds to be the best. The third con in the process of publishing through a traditional publishing house is there's typically no rush. They might have a lot of projects, and so there doesn't always have to be a certain time frame that they need to follow. And then the fourth piece of the traditional publishing route is that sometimes you may not get accepted, which can make it really, really difficult. So a person that comes to mind is J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is the second most read book next to the Bible. Some research says it's the third most read book, but it's somewhere up there in the top 3, right? And it's an amazing book, and she valued this book. She loved it, but she got turned down 12 times because they did not see the value in her manuscript. Now, luckily she had that resilience and she just kept showing up. She kept believing in her book, and eventually it became a worldwide hit, a movie, more books, all these things. But a lot of times that can be extremely disheartening and discouraging, especially if you've put your blood, sweat, and tears figuratively into writing this book. And then finally, another con is also there can be difficult contracts. So sometimes legally, there's a lot of fine print or red tape on the contracts, and sometimes people can feel taken advantage of, or they feel kind of boxed in with some of the things that they like to do. So those are some of the cons as it relates to traditional publishing. So the second route that you can take for publishing is self-publishing, which is also known as indie publishing, or short for independent publishing. Simply put, this is where the author publishes their book without the support of an established publisher. So there are obviously, just like traditional publishing, pros and cons. Some pros with this route is that you get to publish on your own terms. If you want to publish on your birthday, publish on your birthday. If you want to publish on Valentine's Day, publish on Valentine's Day. If you want to publish your book at $17.99 versus $12.99, you get to make the choice. So you have your own rules that you get to follow through the journey. You also get a greater royalty percentage because you're not splitting it with anyone. The third pro in the process of self-publishing is that you create deadlines around your schedule, okay? So you get to craft and structure what's going to work for you and your overall vision. And then the fourth pro, as far as it relates to self-publishing, is that the publishing process typically is quicker. You could literally get online and publish a book tomorrow. Now, that doesn't necessarily say that the book is going to be valuable or worthy of anything, but the publishing process, when you're self-publishing, there aren't as many hoops that you need to jump through, so it typically goes a lot quicker. So now let's be real and let's talk about the cons as it relates to self-publishing or indie publishing. The first process is the first con is that a lot of times people get extremely overwhelmed. There are a lot of ins and outs to writing and publishing a book. It's not as simple as like writing your words on paper, finding somebody to check it, slapping a cover on it, and throwing it online. There are a lot of ins and outs in the process, and it can become extremely overwhelming, which causes people to throw in the proverbial towel and just say, like, I just can't do it. Like, it gets so frustrating. And then a lot of people end up missing out on the success that can come from being a published author because of the overwhelm, because of the frustration. The second con is that it can sometimes be very challenging to find reputable support. The reality is you could write your book, right? And you don't necessarily need a team, but you are going to need people that are going to help you. And I do recommend, personally, I always recommend having a team, because even if you wrote your own book and you're like, well, I'm a great editor, I'll edit my book, you're not going to be able to pick up on those little small things that you may have overlooked because you know what you mean to say. So you don't know. You may not also understand like what your audience is looking for when it comes to marketing and being strategic about marketing. You may not be able to be a great graphic designer. You may think that you throw something together on Canva and now you can throw it on there. That can really get in the way of your success with marketing. So being able to find reputable support is going to be a major con in this process, because without reputable support, that can impact your overall success when it comes to marketing and publishing that book. A third con to consider is that it can become extremely overwhelming when you're a person that's like, I just want to share my voice. I just want to share my genius with the world. But it turns into being more like running a business or being an entrepreneur. That can be extremely overwhelming in the process as well. And then finally, a final con that comes to mind is that there's a lot of times a stigma as it relates to self-publishing. Now, more people are self-publishing, but some people take it as a joke. I just recently read an article about somebody that's like, anyone can self-publish. A 2-year-old can self-publish, and I'll put a picture of my foot online and say that I self-published, and that is true. But I think that we need to shift our perspective as it relates to self-publishing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that other people don't have certain ideas or beliefs as it relates to self-publishing. Finally, we move into hybrid publishing, which is exactly what it sounds like. But if you're new to hybrid publishing, let me explain. Hybrid publishing is a new and emerging form in which you can publish your book. And simply put, it's exactly what it sounds like. Hybrid, you're blending the traditional route with the self or indie publishing route to create a hybrid publishing option. Basically, an author would pay an upfront cost to get a supportive team around them to help them really be able to market and publish their book with success. So let's break down some of these pros with hybrid publishing. The first pro is that you typically get a higher royalty rate than you do with traditional publishing because you've already paid an upfront cost to pay that team to come on to support you. The second pro is that you have a supportive team behind you. So you have people that know what they're doing and can help pick up that heavy lift, that heavy load, so that you can really focus and hone in on your skill, which is writing. Another pro with the hybrid publishing route is that you still get creative control because you're kind of in charge in the way in which you want to go about it. There's still a level of creativity that you can embed or weave into the process. Now, your team may give you feedback, but you still ultimately have a lot more control than you do with traditional publishing. And then finally, with hybrid publishing, one of the pros that I really enjoy is that there's a la carte options. So what I mean by a la carte options is you may say, okay, I really want to go with your publishing house and I'm going to let you publish my book under your publishing house's name. But all I really need is somebody to edit because my husband is a graphic designer and he can design my cover. And a lot of hybrid publishing companies and houses will allow you to do that as an option as well, which in the long run can save you money. Now, let's dive into some of the cons as it relates to hybrid publishing. The first one is that the contracts can be very misleading or very overwhelming. There's times where it may be that you can only publish at certain retailers, or there's a lot of that red tape or that fine print that a lot of new and aspiring authors can overlook if they're not sure exactly what it is that they should be looking for or what they should really be asking for. A second con is there's often a lot of upfront costs because remember, you're paying upfront to get this publishing house to work with you. And so there's a lot of upfront costs that can be extremely expensive for an author who hasn't already earned royalties as it relates to their book. Another con is that because hybrid publishing is so new, a lot of times hybrid publishing houses will come and go. So you may hear of a publishing house and then before you know it, they're gone, which can make it extremely overwhelming to find the most perfect and well-fitting hybrid publishing house for your specific needs. And then finally, one of the cons as it relates to hybrid publishing is that because it's new and it's emerging, and like I said, it's not as well recognized, there could be that stigma as it relates to hybrid publishing because they don't have the big names as we think of some of those big names traditional publishing houses. As you can see, with all three of the publishing options, they each have pros and they each have cons. There's amazing things about each, and then there's some things to kind of question or be worried about them as well. The reality is there is no right or wrong decision. Your job is to determine what's going to work best for me, what's going to work best for my goals, what's going to be in alignment with the outcome that I want, and make a decision from that place. The best part is now you have the information you need to make a well-informed decision moving forward. If you're looking for more tools, more supports, and more strategies on your aspiring author journey, I have just the thing for you. In fact, I have two offers for you using the links below. The first thing is if you're looking to get that idea out of your head and on a paper and into the world, and you're ready to really write your book, you're done talking and hoping and wishing and waiting for it, and you're ready to take action, you can use the link below to join my totally free Write Your Book in 30 Days training, where I walk you through the process of how I wrote, published, and prospered off of my books in only 30 days. So use that link below and I can't wait to see you on the inside. The second option is if you've already written your book and you're ready to not only increase your income, but also your impact as well by getting your book into the hands of the people that need it most, you can use the second link below where you'll get access to my author's launch plan, where I walk you through the process of creating a launch plan that puts you in a position to succeed, which is so exciting because you don't have to be overwhelmed. You don't have to be exhausted. You don't even have to try to figure it out all on your own. I literally make the process seamless and dare I even say fun. So use the link below and I'm excited to see you there as well. As a best-selling author myself, it is my deepest desire to be able to help other aspiring authors just like you be able to share their voice with people all across the world. I'm so excited and so honored that you joined me today. And I look forward to connecting with you further with one of the two options below. Until next time, guys, I will check in and chat with you all later.